What's going on, everybody? My name is Chimpact. Today we're going to be doing week 1 power rankings. Thank you guys so much for the support of the post-draft power rankings. I definitely appreciate it. And I just want to give a quick shout out to this one person in particular. I think the title of this got mixed up. We just say hazard rankings, not power rankings. I thought that was pretty funny. Shout out to T-Knowledge. I don't know if you were trying to flame me or not, but either way, it was pretty funny, and shout out to you. So this power rankings is going to be slightly different from the first week. There's going to be 3 tiers to it, as you see from the graphic. The first 4 teams, 10 through 7, are in their own tier, 6 through 4 in their own tier, and then the top 3 teams, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 3, whatever, however you want to sequence it, they're going to be in their own tier. So, also, you had to win to get in to be in the top 10 of week 1 of the power rankings. I felt like it would be a disservice to the teams that did win if I put in a team that lost in week 1. However, if I did put a team that did lose in week 1, it would be Pokemon. He put up a great fight against Joey, and that was just an incredible game. So, number 10, I have Under the Radar. He got Ice Beam frozen, but he still managed to win the game despite that. There was a few criticisms that I have of him throughout the game. There was a play where he went into Wigglytuff on a Tapu Fini that I disagree with. Tapu Fini typically carries Taunt, and he wanted to go into Wigglytuff to be able to wish up some of his other team members, and he would have lost a whole lot of momentum if he did do that. And luckily for him, I believe on that turn he did switch to Wigglytuff, but his opponent also switched out into a different Pokemon, so he was able to luck out in that aspect. But I also think that the Tapu Fini didn't have Taunt either, so I felt like if he went into Superior on the Tapu Fini, then that would have been very, very good for him. He would have been able to fire off some not unresisted, but like pretty much free Leaf Storms against his opponent, and he would have been able to snowball the Leaf Storms and be able to just do a whole lot of damage with Superior. But despite that, it was a very, very well-off game for Under the Radar. He did get frozen by the Mesprit, and I felt like that was also another misplay on his part. His Mesprit was pretty strong. It was choiced with Psychic Slice Shock and Sleep Talk to be able to take advantage of the Amoonguss. I felt like that set was also very good prep, being able to just fire off Sleep Talks whenever you want, whenever the Amoonguss did come in, and it really put the Amoonguss in a precarious position. But unfortunately for him, he did bring the Amoonguss. And number 2, the Mesprit was frozen, and I felt like he went into the Mesprit one too many times. He at one point tried to sack it, the other times he tried to thaw, and it really gave Sacred a lot of momentum. He was able to wish up a lot of his team members back up to full or a decent amount of HP, and I felt like that was just not a good play. He should have just sacked something else, or he should have brought in Mesprit on an attack that would have just killed it, because whenever you bring out a frozen Pokemon and you stay in trying to thaw, you're giving your opponent a chance to set up 8% of the time, because you can only thaw 20% of the time, but you have a chance every turn. But like, the chances are pretty low. I don't think you should really risk it, and it's unlimited. Like, there's no amount of turns where like you're guaranteed to thaw out of the freeze, unlike Sleep where it's a guaranteed limit of 3 turns in Generation 7. So I don't know. I didn't like that play, but he did get the W, and I can't really criticize him too much for that because he did get the W. So shout out to Under the Radar, number 10. And number 9, I have in VividColor. I really like the way that he played this game. He really took advantage of his excellent prep. He had a faster team. Nexus's team really only has Medicham and Zapdos as his fast Pokemon, and who knows if Zapdos is actually going to be going fast. I know that the Zapdos did outspeed the Nidoking, but I don't know how much speed that he actually put into the Zapdos. And every turn that Vivid played, I felt like he had so much confidence in every single one of his plays. He was like, okay, I'm going to do this because I expect him to do this, and no matter what, he stood by his play, and I really like that confidence. I don't like it when players are like, oh, they click the move and then they just immediately backtrack and was like, oh man, I should have done this. Because when you stick to your play and you stick to your game plan, it just gives you a little bit more. Obviously, it's just confidence, but you just feel better about yourself, and you just feel better about the plays that you make going on. When you have confidence, you're less likely to go on tilt, and that's one of the biggest concerns that I have with a lot of people playing in Draft League. They just go on tilt, and it really causes them to lose a lot of momentum, and it usually costs them the game. But he wasn't, and he showed a lot of confidence in a lot of his plays, and it really showed. He was able to deal a lot of damage with the Mew early on, and then eventually late game Nidoking and Sharpedo just were too much for Nexus. Like I said, the speed tiers were too much. His defensive Pokemon didn't really do that much defensively. Like Mew just did way too much damage early on, and then Sharpedo with its base 105 speed, Nexus didn't really have anything to really take advantage of that. He didn't have a Pokemon that could switch into Sharpedo, number one. And even the Nidoking, it was doing way too much damage to the Zapdos with Ice Beam when it roosted. So Vivid played a great game, a lot of confidence, number 9. So at number 8, I have Duncan. I had Duncan number 1 in the post rankings, post draft power rankings, and I just wasn't confident putting him any higher than number 8 because I feel like the play where he nearly sacked the Blacephalon to the Tyrantrum was just really, really bad. And he should have calced how much damage the VividColor did to Tyrantrum. Because even if you don't know that Tyrantrum isn't that bulky of a Pokemon, I believe Tyrantrum only has around 60-70 special defense, and VividColor has a lot of special attack. He should have known that like it was a little bit fishy to see that the Bug Buzz didn't really do that much damage. And he should have definitely calced to see how much damage the Bug Buzz did, so to see if the Shadow Ball actually would have KO'd the Tyrantrum. And if the Tyrantrum actually stayed alive and didn't miss the head smash, I believe that Duncan, it would have been very hard for Duncan to win that game. I mean, but there's also the fact that I can't really fault him that much because it's a Blacephalon, and I don't know if you should really be head smashing against a Blacephalon when you probably have many other moves that can knock it out. So I felt like that was a risk his opponent didn't really need to take. But outside of that blunder that he made of not realizing that the Shadow Ball was not going to kill a Tyrantrum that only took like 30%, 20% from a Bug Buzz from VividColor, he played a solid game. And going forward, Duncan's going to be facing a lot of Assault Vest Pokemon, and it's going to be key for him to identify which Pokemon have Assault Vest, so he's going to have more success going forward, because if he doesn't know which Pokemon are Assault Vest and which Pokemon aren't, it's going to be very difficult for him to nab those key KOs on those Assault Vest Pokemon, because he does have VividColor, he does have Blacephalon, he has strong special attackers on his team, and he needs to be able to just know which Pokemon are Assault Vest so that they don't have Recovery, or they can't click Taunt, they can't click Toxic, or any one of those other moves, and he's able to key in on the moves that those Pokemon have. So Duncan's at number 8. Number 7, I have Envy. I would have Envy higher, but I believe luck was a factor in the game that he played against Kyle. The Torkoal was fully paralyzed on a key turn where the Rotom, I think, defogged, or maybe it was the turn after he defogged, but that was a pretty big turn because I feel like the Torkoal had a chance to knock out the Rotom because it did so much damage the first time, and the Rotom had an Eye of Papa Berry, and it was just a whole lot of sequential things that could have happened if the Rotom went down to the Torkoal. And there was also the critical hit on the Volcanion from the Dugtrio. Obviously, he would have been able to revenge the Volcanion with his own Ditto, because Ditto always revenges every other Pokemon that's not Choice Scarfed itself, because he's going to be running a Choice Scarf on his Ditto. But that allowed Kyle to be able to maybe take advantage of the fact that he went out into his Ditto to go for Earth Power on his Volcanion. So other than that, I felt like Envy played a great game. The T-Wave on the crest was a great play. The second T-Wave, I mean, to catch the Pidgeot, because Hex was pretty obvious. It was very low risk, high reward, and only a veteran player like Envy would make that play. And Envy really took advantage of the fact of Envy took advantage of Kale in the fact that he brought Sun, and he had so many Pokemon to be able to deal with Sun. He had Facade Azumarill, which would be able to take burns really well against Lava Plume Pokemon and Steam Eruption and Will-O-Wisp, etc. Dugtrio's able to trap Torkoal and Volcanion. And then he had Victini, which does so much damage in the sun, it's not even funny. So Envy prepped really well in that game, so he has to be in my top 10. So number 6, I have Drew. Now Drew, he played a very good game. His prep was even better, and he showed why he is one of the best drafts in the league. I love the prep with Empoleon, even though it didn't work. Because he got Z-moved with Thunderbolt. It was very, very well thought out. He had enough bulk to be able to live any hit from Thundurus with the Wakan Berry and the bulk, and he had enough special attack to be able to knock it out with Ice Beam after rocks. So unfortunately, like, he did have the Z move to knock out the Empoleon, but it was just great prep and overall with the Empoleon. But it's movesets like that really shift the momentum of the game, and other than that, like, he really showed out the power of his team through Nihilego and the Latias. Nihilego did like 40% to an Aggron with Power Gem. That's just major damage. And the Latias was CM stored power, and I felt like he didn't have an answer to it. Should have named the Latias Thanos, because it was inevitable. There was no way that the Lati was not going to win that game. Even with crits, there was not enough crits in the game to be able to knock out that Lati. So Drew at number 6, very strong team, very strong showing. Number 5, I have Leo. And Leo played a solid game. He had a rough start at the beginning of the game, but the prep was very solid. You can't go wrong running a CM Recovery and set, even though it does have Focus Blast. It's one of the most consistent Pokemon in the game. One of the few Pokemon, alongside with Tornadus, where you don't feel awful from clicking Focus Blast because of how many opportunities you're going to be able to click Focus Blast because of its bulk and longevity. And honestly, the Reuniclus, it's also kind of like Latias, where it's inevitable, where it's going to win it eventually. But the Sylveon did prove that it had a chance to be able to win the game for Mewtwo Fandate. And I would have ranked Leo a little bit higher, but I feel like some of the sequences that he made in the game could have been optimized. He clicked Light Screen before Tail Glow. I don't understand why he did that, because Light Screen would have enabled him to almost always live whatever attack his opponent went for. I think it was Sylveon that was in, but I don't know why you clicked Tail Glow. If you expected him to not go for an attack, and even if he did go for an attack, Light Screen would have helped you out even more. So, like, it was just optimal to go for Light Screen first. But other than that, like, I also didn't like the fact that Nate played so recklessly with the Thundurus. Like, if Nate didn't play as recklessly, I probably would have had Leo a little bit higher, because it would have been a much more difficult game for him to win if the Thundurus was still alive later on in the game. So Leo number 5. Number 4, I have Patty. This is the last of the tier 2s. And Patty has, like I said, one of the strongest teams in the post-draft power rankings. I had him number 2, I believe. And it was also one of the stronger wins of the week. Now, Gator doesn't have the best team, but Gator is a draft league champion. He won the APA earlier this month, and the game plan was very basic for him, but it was very effective. I was able to set up the hazards, set up Stealth Rock spikes, and everything like that, and just utilize Alakazam's strengths very, very well. He had defensive Pokemon in Ferrothorn and Landers to be able to take on the physical hits that Alakazam doesn't want to take, and he didn't need to click Focus Blast against Gator's team, and that's two of Alakazam's biggest weaknesses. It's very, very subpar bulk, and having to click Focus Blast against Pokemon that obviously can do a lot of damage to Alakazam. And overall, it was just like, the reason why I had Patty ranked so high is because he's able to set up hazards and then go out into some fast Pokemon to take advantage of the hazards, and that's exactly what that game led to. Alakazam just came in late game and was able to just deal so much damage to Gator's team, where it didn't really matter what Gator did in the end. Alakazam was just going to win. And now, this is the tier 1 of the top 10. The top 3. At number 3, I had Pokemon Embiid. I said Pokemon Embiid because I was going to say Joel. Shout out the Sixers. Alright, so Joey, he played a great game. And I just want to also quick mention that Joey played one of the teams that I had in the top 10. Leo played a team in the top 10. And I believe Vivid played. Yeah, Vivid played Nexus. Yeah, he played Nexus. So Vivid and Leo and Joey all play teams that I had in the top 10. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that those three, I believe, had the toughest week ones that got wins. So Joey had an excellent game plan, and there's one thing that I want to mention is that, like, he brought Gothitelle, and the Gothitelle put in work. And because of the fact that Gothitelle put in work, it sets a precedent with Gothitelle. His opponents have to react to the Gothitelle with Shed Shell, and it doesn't matter to Joey because he has counterplay and knockoff on multiple Pokemon. He has knockoff on Crocodile. He has knockoff on Toxapex. Now, Toxapex knockoff is very, very sneaky. Like, you want to bring in a Pokemon that, like, you can utilize Substitute against Toxapex to prevent it from utilizing Toxapex that well, or Toxic or something like that, or prevent a Scald Burn. And if Toxapex is able to hit you up with a knockoff and drop your Shed Shell, that is pretty bad. It's not only does it not only do you not have a real item anymore, like Gothitelle can trap you, or like Joey cannot bring Gothitelle at all, and you just have a Shed Shell for no reason. Like, it could have been used on an offensive Pokemon, it could have been a Z move, and it would have really threatened Joey's team, but nope, it's a Shed Shell, and it's pretty much useless if he doesn't bring a Shed Shell. And back to the game. Every time Joey was in a position to sacrifice a Pokemon, every time he went Mamoswine, or not Mamoswine, Piloswine to sack it, he was able to threaten a KO immediately after with Crocodile or one of his other Pokemon. Crocodile, Gothitelle, whatever it was. And it reminded me a lot of how VGC players position themselves to gain momentum. They set up Tailwind, they set up Trick Room, they sack a Pokemon, and then they bring out their next Pokemon, and they're able to just be in a position to just win the game in the next couple turns. And I really felt like he used that mindset in VGC in this game in particular. And ultimately, after Decidueye went down and Magneton was weakened, Joey was just going to win with one of Comfey or Crocodile. It was basically just a matter of how Joey wanted to win, not if he was going to win. He only won 1-0, but I felt that Joey played the game so safe where he could have won a little bit more, but he decided that he wanted to win without any variance taking place. No hacks, no nothing, so no luck could have stopped him from being able to win the game. And he played that game really, really well, but Pokemon, gotta give a shout out to him. I would have put him in the top 10 if I put any team that did not win week 1 in the top 10. Number 2. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I know. A-Drive wasn't in my top 10 for a week post-draft. And looking back on it, you guys are kind of right. I didn't really see the sneaky synergy that A-Drive had on his team. Like, he has a Kyurem, right? And his team's kind of Stealth Rock weak. But what Pokemon can set up Stealth Rock against Kyurem, Shaman, Talonflame? I guess Talonflame. There are a couple Pokemon that can set up on Talonflame, but like Grass, like Celebi and stuff like that, can't really set up against Talonflame. So like, he has such threatening Pokemon that, like, do you really want to click Stealth Rock against the Kyurem and lose your Pokemon? Do you really want to click Stealth Rock against Shaman and potentially have it Seed Flare and 2-hit kill you, and then if he defogs, your Stealth Rocker's at very low amount of HP and maybe not going to be able to Stealth Rock again? He has good defoggers in Florges and Skarmory, so even if he does set up Stealth Rock, he's just able to defog them. So do apologize for not putting him in the top 10. I probably should have put him in the top 10. So in the game, he did get a little lucky. He clicked Fusion Bolt against the Suicune and he did get a crit. It was likely the Suicune was running defensive V, so the crit probably mattered. But essentially, it only added 10% more to his Kyurem, which actually did matter in the end because it would have it actually died a life of recoil, and if he had 10% less, he would have died one turn sooner. But I don't think the luck mattered that much. When you play offensively, you have more opportunities to be rewarded. If you're switching around, you have more chance of getting lucky outside of a good matchup. You cannot get lucky if you're not doing anything, right? But if you're hitting your opponent while you're attacking, you have a chance at a secondary effect or a critical hit. That's one of the reasons why Metagross is banned in Gen 7, because it can click Iron Head and get a flinch against something that would normally be able to beat it. It can click Thunder Punch and get a parry. It can click Ice Punch and get a freeze. And it's doing that so many times where it's eventually going to get that parry. It's going to get that freeze. It's going to get that crit. It's going to get that flinch with those attacks. And basically, the Fusion Bolt crit ensured that Kyurem took one less hit from Life Orb, but as soon as the Kyurem hit the Rhydon with an Ice Beam, I felt like the game was over, because the damage that the Rhydon was at, there was no Pokemon on the team that wasn't going to be able to knock out the Rhydon, and it just opened up the door for Manectric and Talonflame to be able to become immediate threats to Boffin's team. He did have the Wish Jolteon to be able to heal up the Rhydon, but the Rhino was just way too low to be able to take a wish. Like Duncan, A-Drive was definitely going to be attacking whenever he did wish. So number 2 A-Drive, and number 1 the back-to-back WBE champion WolfGlick, number 1. Overall, like the prep was solid, the gameplay was solid, everything was just solid. He had a great game plan, but the only thing, he's one of those differential junkies. Joey was talking about on a stream where Wolf was switching around just so that he didn't lose a Pokemon to maintain differential. Come on, bro. Come on. Basically, the whole game, he just had control of the game. And when he had a chance to really end the game, like, I remember one turn, it wasn't a chance to end the game, but he had a chance to knock out the Coco with his Blastoise. I'm pretty sure Wolf thought that he was going to go for Defog. But on the off chance that he didn't go for Defog, he switched out into his Excadrill. And he did click Defog, and Wolf would have had a chance to kill the Tapu Koko. And it would have been very nice for Wolf, but he decided to make the long-term play of being able to just whittle down the Koko, because the Koko was already poisoned. He knew that it didn't have leftovers. It probably didn't have a Iapapa berry, or one of those 50% berries. And it likely didn't have Roost based on the way that he was playing the Tapu Koko. And he just played the long game, and he was eventually going to be able to just win, because Wolf was just planning turn after turn, 3 turns ahead, and that's the reason why he won the game. He showed a lot of discipline, and he played the long-term game. But honestly, the real reason why he's number 1 is because he decided to handicap himself and not bring Tornadus, one of the best Pokemon in Draft League format. How do you not bring Tornadus and win 5-0? That's just incredible. Just every turn that he played, like, he played the Extra really well, the Blastoise really well, the Weezing really well, all the Pokemon that he had, and his Pokemon are just really, really solid Pokemon. I hate Mandibuzz, but he played Mandibuzz really well as well. So that's going to be it for the power rankings. Next week is going to be a very good indicator for the top of the power rankings. We have Duncan playing against A-Drive, Joey against Vivid, and then there are teams that I think are pretty high up there, with Patty versus Pokemon and Under the Radar versus Mewtwo Fannate. Those are going to be games to watch for next week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening in, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.